Hello, everyone. Welcome to another installment of Tales from the Forlorn Dopes. I am one of the hosts, Cybersmily.
Greetings, programs. I am the other host, Wisdom000. I am happy to be here today. Not as happy as Smiley is. He got to go to Gen Con and meet all sorts of groovy people.
Yeah, a
We're
few of
going to
them.
be talking about that.
Yeah, definitely going to be talking about that. And also, a lot of stuff happened since our last episode around Cyberpunk.
Indeed.
I don't know where to start.
Well, Danger Gals dropped.
Danger Gals drop?
The Cyberpunk Red Combat Zone Kickstarter shipped to everybody, so that's out.
And now
A
available on
novel
stores
came
as
out.
well.
Yeah.
Yes,
The Cyberpunk 2077 novel came out.
called No Coincidence.
Yeah, I have not had a chance to read it or get a copy of it yet, but I am very much looking forward to doing so.
Yes, mine is in the mail as we speak.
Oh, yeah.
Another thing that was announced was a new Dark Horse comic called Cyberpunk 2077 XOXO. So they're continuing the saga of Cyberpunk, at least in comic book form. The writer is Bartzo. I know I'm horrible at Polish names.
Yeah.
Stybor? I don't know.
I think that's about as close as I'm going to get.
Bartosz Stybor. Or Stybor. I don't know.
I'll tell you the announcement that's got me the most excited.
What's that?
And that is they're redoing Tales from the Forlorn Hope, and Will Moss is coming back to write.
Oh, you heard that.
I did hear that. I am so very excited.
Yeah, so
Will Moss is a friend of the show. We interviewed him a little while back. He did not drop any hints about this one.
Nope.
So,
I don't think he's writing all the scenarios. I think he might be just writing the forward and maybe one or two adventures.
that's fine by me. I'm just happy that they're bringing back some of the old guys and showing them love. I mean, we love those guys, so yeah.
Yeah, so that was announced during Gen Con, during the Q&A with our Talsorian. So we'll just get into what's going on with Gen Con. So, Gen Con, our Talsorian had a pretty big booth.
Yeah. Plus, they had that giant banner. They took pictures of their giant banner as you walk in.
Yep.
What I want to know is, you stole that, right? And you're sending it to me?
There was already a theft at this year's Gen Con with the police involved.
Yeah, but those are magic cards. Nobody cares
Yeah,
about
but I know. But the problem was those guys were wearing shirts with their company name on it. And of course, the only T-shirts I had wearing to Gen Con had my my Cybersmily face plastered on it. So.
Oh yeah, no. You need to. It would have needed to have been a planned heist for that.
Exactly.
I forgive you. Okay.
So.
Okay.
I did take a picture of it, so we did get that.
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Hell, there was if I saw the picture correctly, there was like some neat Cyberpunk or R. Talsorian advertising on the escalator or some shit.
Yep. Yeah, there was quite a bit of it throughout, which I think was nice. I think because Wizards really didn't have too big of a presence there. I think our Talsorian really shined a lot.
I mean, I can't tell you how much that kind of presence like fills my heart with joy. Because like back in the day, like people kind of slept on Cyberpunk. Like even the fans, like there just wasn't the big. I don't know. I've never been to Gen Con. I certainly didn't go to Gen Con in the 90s, so maybe it was a much bigger deal back then. I just know that at the game stores I would go to, there was never any advertising.
Right.
Because if there was, I would have moved hell and high water to get a hold of whatever posters or promotional materials they had, but I never saw any.
Yeah, I never saw promotional stuff for Cyberpunk, especially in the game store I went to. And this game store had everything, right? It had the interface magazines, all the back then it was Atlas and Ionis.
Yeah, I mean the closest I ever saw were ads in gaming mags. That's really about it, and anime mags, like way back in the early 90s.
Yeah. Yeah, so this year's Gen Con was the biggest on record. It showed. There was a lot of people there. Yeah, so this was... So I went to Gen Con back when it was in Milwaukee. So that was... I want to say it was a 2001 I went. Maybe 2002. I forget which year it was, but a lot different. So, first off, Indianapolis I thought, was a great city to host Gen Con, because me and my friends... So
it's smack dab in the middle of everything. So.
Yeah, it is. And it's a big convention kind of city, so that kind of helps with the tourism. A lot of different restaurants, a lot of good bars. There's a bunch of different sections in Indy. So you have kind of an upscale area, like a bohemian area. And, this is the first time I went to a Midwest city other than Milwaukee. But Indy was really nice. Tons of different restaurants, which I loved. So I actually went up there the Sunday before the con and was able to cruise through the city, find cool places to go to, hang out with, because I went with 4 friends. We got an Airbnb that was like a mile and a half from the convention center.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So we thought we were going to walk there every day. And one of our friends brought 2 bikes, and if we wanted to use one. However, when we found the e-scooters, that kind of changed. So,
hooray for progress.
Yeah, dropped some ducats on renting those scooters and driving around, which was fun until one eventful incident, which I took a dive. It was on Friday night, actually. So, midway through the con. Took a dive, fell down, felt bruised up, like any fall you're going to have on concrete. And so I was in achy pain for the rest of the con. And the drive home, which was a 16-hour ordeal, the next day I was in super pain. My wife pushed me
I can imagine.
Go to a clinic and found out I had a fractured rib.
Old men and scooters just don't mix. It's like skateboards. Like just stay away, pal.
Nah, I'll keep on driving them. So,
well, there you go.
So as I'm in pain driving these things for half of the con, so. But yeah.
Eventually, you'll start doing some sick trips or tricks, and
exactly.
Yeah, I'm gonna start calling you Super Dave.
Yeah, so that was great to get around the city, just because you know with the e-scooters you could go pretty good distance. You just need to make sure that your e-scooter was fully charged to get around Indy. Yeah,
Oh,
so
hey, it looks like we got some
we got raided.
raiders from Sirenscape.
Welcome,
Hey, guys.
Sirenscape. Thanks for the love. So,
Exactly.
so those who are joining us, I'm just recounting Gen Con 2023 and my experience, and talking a little bit about all the stuff that we had with Cyberpunk that came out recently. So,
So we
welcome.
we we talked about the big like promotional presence there
Yeah.
for Artal Saurian and Cyberpunk Red. Was there any swag like buttons, pencils, pens,
Um,
any of that kind of stuff?
there was dice. So there was Danger Gale dice that I got. There was also,
Oh, jealousy.
yeah. The other swag I got was the Michiko uh, figure from Monster Fight Club, which was a con
Oh, so
exclusive.
jealous.
And there was also
Man.
another type of dice that I was given with the big reveal in the Q&A. So, anyways, so Wednesday I went to Gen Con to kind of pick up my shirts. So I got some free shirts for GMing some of the events for our Talsorian. So I
Very nice.
picked those up, talked with Jay Gray a bit. I also talked with Dave Ackerman a little bit. So if you guys don't know who Dave Ackerman is, he's been kind of with Mike for years. From what I've understood, he was even before Altor
Pretty
Sorian.
much from the pretty much from the beginning. He is
Because they worked together in for Star Wars back when Star Wars was the West End Games version.
still the best Star Wars role playing supplements I've ever seen.
Yep. Yeah. So then that Thursday, I had a morning game, but because I was running so close, or had to get to Artal Soren close, I kind of skipped my first morning game. But I did walk around the hall, checked out a bunch of things, trying to get the lay of the land. So if you've seen the map and if you've seen any other people talk about Gen Con, Gen Con controlled the convention center. They were using the Colts Stadium and like 4 or 5 hotels around the convention center were also hosting games. So
Damn.
yeah, it took. If you were unlucky with a game, it could take you probably 10 minutes of a walk to get to your next game, or more, depending upon floor traffic and all of that. So I really didn't want to risk showing up late to Artel Sorian's games. But so the games I ran, one was, I think the first day was Digital Divas. So Digital Divas is part of the Data Pack supplement. That went well, a lot better than I thought it was going to be, because the adventure is kind of light and action and role playing, so I was able to make it work, and the players enjoyed it, so that's all that mattered.
Absolutely.
And of course,
Well, and that you enjoyed it too.
yes, yeah, I did, and I haven't run a con game in a while, or at least a role playing game. I used to run BattleTech events at one of the cons, but role playing I probably haven't done in 10 years. So I was kind of nervous. But having that first one under your belt, kind of the next one went smoother. So the next game I ran was Edgerunners. So it was a introduction to some of the new tech and new rules that Edgerunners is producing. I don't know how much I can say about the rules. I assume that, because there's players there, it's kind of public, but I can at least give you a high level rule set that's coming out around edgerunners, that at
Sure.
least the pack I saw. So the pack I was given was mostly just the different types of weapons from the game. So a lot of the 2077 games have been kind of statted out. Also, quick hacks. So I think the preliminary rules of quick hacks were introduced, uh, which I don't know. I mean, I played with them. I saw what they can do. I tried to do some of it on other players to quick hack them, but you know, uh, they're interesting, right? So they don't have everything, or they at least this section they didn't have too many of the quick hacks that are in Cyberpunk 2077. They
Sure.
did have quite a powerful quick hack, which was Puppeteer, which you had to do your interface plus a D10 and defeat a DV of 12. And with Puppeteer, you could control the target's next action
Oh,
as
that's
yourself.
pretty
And
powerful.
yeah, and to the point where it's kind of like in 2077, where you can do you have the suicide quick hack or the detonate grenade. You can do that. So
Nice.
that's kind
Did
of
it work pretty smoothly?
um kind of because no one was able to do a puppeteer on anybody. At least the times I ran this game, so it was kind of good from that point of view, that
Yeah,
it
you don't want
wasn't
that to be
too
easy,
overpowerful.
Jesus.
Yeah, but again, you were playing with people who had interface of 4, right? So
Oh, okay. Yeah, that'll.
if you think you have a seasoned character with an interface of 8, you need a 4 or greater to succeed with Puppeteer, which kind of is kind of scary.
Yeah, that's a
And
little bit
you
downright
can't.
terrifying, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. So how you, how the hack works is the person can resist it, right? Once they know they've been hacked, they can make a cool roll and get and disrupt the hack, but it can be difficult because what you're doing is you're making a cool roll against the netrunner's interface roll. So for a low level interface or a low level netrunner, you're probably going to be able to expel them. At a higher level netrunner, you're going to have a hard time. So still not sure what's the best options on that. I think it definitely needs a little bit of play testing, just because it's yeah. So I mean, it's one of those abilities that are basically save or die, right?
Yeah,
And
definitely sounds like that.
and I know that a lot of the games, tabletop games, are trying to get away from that type of real, real hard penalty for failing a roll.
Yeah, it always feels pretty hopeless.
Yeah. So they also introduced for weapons smart ammunition, which was interesting. So if you miss your first shot, you get to roll a second time to try to hit a person,
Hmm.
which was interesting. But it's a set roll as opposed to your skill roll for the second roll. So it's kind of like giving the AI the chance to hit. They also introduced power weapons, which allowed you to do. I'm trying to remember if power weapons or tech weapons. I want to say power weapons or the ricochet. So they give rules for ricochets with power weapon, so you can kind of bank a shot. So if someone's in cover, you can try to shoot them around the corner, which was interesting. So it kind of alleviates the whole in cover, out of cover type of
A
thing.
little bit of Judge Dredd
Yeah.
action.
And it also gave an additional 5 points to critical damage. So instead of 5 points of damage, 5 extra points of damage if you score a crit, you do 10, which was interesting. You had to charge the weapon too. I think that was the power weapon. Then there was the tech weapon, which you did charge with a move action. So you charged the weapon, and you could actually shoot through thin cover. Depending upon the weapon, you would also be able to see an outline of the target behind the cover. There was one weapon that was able to, I think it was the Nikamata, which could actually penetrate heavy cover. So cover would not reduce the damage, and the damage that did get through would half your SP. So tech weapons were pretty powerful, especially
like
when
it.
it comes to cover. So,
And all that stuff is straight from the video game 2077.
Yep, definitely. There was also some information around the different type of cyberware, right? So the mantis blades, the mono whip, gorilla arms. Also the concept of what they're calling the neuroport. So it's like the neural processor, but a neuroport has shard inputs. It also does, you can communicate with it. It's kind of your agent, similar to what's in 2077, right? And,
Yeah.
And if a person doesn't have a neuroport, then you can't do a quick hack on them. However, neuroports are kind of like, as you saw in 2077, they're everyone has them because you need them to like do payments and all that other stuff. So
Yeah, I think Pan Am's the only person you come across that doesn't have one.
does she not have one? Interesting.
No, she actually reads books and whatnot.
Right. My recent playthrough
Has a cell phone and shit.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Yeah, that's true.
I may be misremembering that, but I know one of the NPCs definitely just uses a cell phone instead of. They don't have a neural port. You can't hack them.
Yeah, maybe it was Pan Am. I think so. Well, I'm doing another playthrough of Cyberpunk 2077 because
if I'm wrong, somebody will let us know.
yeah, and if those who don't know, next month we got a little over a month before Phantom Liberty drops.
So, was CDPR there at all?
Not that I saw. At least they didn't have any official stance there.
Okay.
Also,
I mean, that makes sense. It's
yeah.
a video game, so.
Yeah, so Thursday night, our Talsorian had what was called a cozy chair talk. So basically, Altarsorian not only had their booth in the main vendor area, but they also had a room in which they ran games, and that's where I was. I think there was 5 tables of
you got
games.
The special treatment.
Yeah, so there was 2 tables for Witcher and 3 tables for Cyberpunk, and then in the back they hello, Val. In the back they had demos of Combat Zone. So that was, and that room was right across from the vendor hall. So in that room, basically all the powers that be of Altarsorian kind of came in, sat at the table, kind of unwinding, just chit-chatting about the stuff. Rob and Val were there. They
I saw your picture with them.
Yep. So they came in. They weren't able to get tickets originally, and I'm like, just show up, because there's a good chance you're probably going to get in. And hung out with a few of the fans, just sitting there chatting with them about Cyberpunk. Talked to Cody a little bit on what he was doing, especially with Witcher. Wasn't able to chat with Mike. That table was kind of full. Same with Dave Ackerman's. But it was fun to sit there and chat. And then after that, there was the Artausoyan Q&A. So that was the panel. There was Mike, Cody, Jay, Gray, Dave Ackerman, and I want to say there was someone else. I'm sorry, my mind is going. Lisa wasn't able to attend. There was another person. Why can't I remember their name? Anyways, so that they talked about what was coming up for Artausoyan and what their plans were. So the things they announced there, they talked about the Edgerunner supplement that's coming out this year. The Edgerunner supplement, they also added that the art is going to be from Studio Trigger. So,
yeah, I saw that. That's very exciting.
Yeah, so awesome. So expect great art.
Yeah.
There's going to be a new Forlorn Hope called Tales of the Red Forlorn Hope with some new Red adventures. And I think we talked about it. Will Moss is doing the introduction. So
Yeah,
I think he's going to
so exciting.
introduce or update the people that be, I guess, from the original supplement, which is cool. Interface 3 is going to be out by the end of the year. Again, that is just a kind of accumulation of all the DLCs with one or two additional articles on that. And finally, and this was concerning Cyberpunk, that Edgerunner figures are being produced. And one of the figure designs is going to be the death of Rebecca. So basically, it's
oh no,
Rebecca on the ground shooting up at Adam Smasher as he's about to do the
I mean,
1 foot stomp.
Some people wear Reeboks. Adam Smasher wears Rebecca's. Oh.
Yeah. So some of the information around Witcher, there is plans for 2 Continent books. And it is a series. However, the problem with Witcher is they're working very closely with CDPR, and they're trying to make sure that with the Witcher 4 game that's coming out, that they definitely have a close working understanding of what's going to be in the tabletop game as well as the computer game.
Yeah, I can imagine there's
yeah, and that's one of the things
don't
that
want
I
to
think
step on toes.
Cody was kind of trying to make us understand exactly the complexity of it all, right? Because CDPR doesn't own everything Witcher, so any monsters that they introduce in the game have to be either from the original books or from the computer game, right? And a lot of like fan fiction has been done. Yeah.
None of the stuff that was like TV series specific or from any other source. It's gotta stay within the realm of CDPR's
exactly
lease of the property.
Also, James Hutt announced his new game that's coming out. I apologize, I did not write the name down. But his indie games are starting to come to fruition and are going to be produced.
Oh, that's good.
Soon. The other thing that kind of was revealed was Cody gave us all a card, and on that card was a QR code, which you scanned, which led you to a webpage that basically said in progress. So Cody has been working on a new game.
Ooh.
that should be coming out, or at least announced on our Tarsorian site. I think Altarsorian did publish the card in one of their blogs, the QR code. So if you scan it, you go to the hidden page in there. I think I'll have to find it, and what I can do is I'll post it in the Forlorn Dopes channel on Discord. But yeah, so that was all the announcements on that. Then that Friday, one of my friends has a friend with one of the burlesque troops that were at GenCon. So later that night, I saw a burlesque show, which was jam-packed.
Hooray, those are always fun.
Yeah, well,
Gen Cons, like, those are famous.
Yeah, they needed some air conditioning in that room. I can tell you that. It was
I
stuffy.
can only imagine, like, a bunch of sweaty nerds getting all riled up over some titillation on stage. Yeah, I can smell that from here.
Especially the male Tauren that did the crowd work. He was funny. Just running around with a horde symbol where his apparatus should be, as it were.
Oh, and that's it, huh?
Yeah.
That's
It was, again.
that's frightening.
Yeah. Well. But yeah, all the performers were top notch, so that was enjoyable. So that was Thursday. So Friday rolls in. That morning, I actually took a demo of Combat Zone, so I had some experience. I had not received my Kickstarter by that point, so my wife did text me, "Hey, there's a big box here. Should I open it?" I'm like, "No."
That's my present.
So I was able to play Combat Zone with the team. I kicked Tiger Claw's ass just because the Maelstroms were just... There's a certain combo with Maelstrom in which I was just doing a hell of a lot of damage to the Tiger Claws. And I was able to get their sniper, so their sniper is pretty powerful. But I was able to get to that guy very quickly through my foot soldiers and just decimated them. So that was fun. Then I had another 2 games. I ran Hilaria from Datapack. I love that scenario. Basically, it is a night of bozos rampaging. And
that's always fun.
And spoilers, there's a different sect of bozos, or splinter group of bozos that also cause torment and torture. All the players did like that. And that game, I was doing 2-hour games just because Altarsorian, I think, wanted to just get as many people playing Cyberpunk and try to give them an intro to Cyberpunk. So that's why I think that there was the 2-hour limit. But that game you can stretch on for a good 4 to 6 hours, just because of
the different waves
you can produce.
I don't know that I could ever run a con game. I just don't know that I could ever
pace it,
close things out, and move things along quickly enough that 2 hours would feel like anything.
Yeah, so
I just am not skilled enough.
Yeah, I had to run all the games with my 2020 players. So it helped me understand, okay, here's the pace. What am I missing? What am I not missing? Kind of like the Digital Divas. That, when I ran it with my 2020 players, it took an hour and 15 minutes. And that was stretching it.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's good that you were able to practice. That's a good idea that I would have never considered. Like, I'm gonna run this thing twice, 3 times, or however many times
Well,
it takes to get it.
that's what a con game is, right? You're going to be running it as many times as you want, and multiple times. So, right, so Hilaria, and then I also did edgerunners again that day. So that was nice. Shoot, I forgot his name. One of the GMs actually created a pack for other GMs with like the common rules all condensed together in kind of a kit in which you could kind of introduce new players to the game. I forgot his
Well,
name.
that's helpful.
He was definitely appreciated with that work. I also met Dice, who is a poster on some of the Discords. He also does videos as well. He was
groovy.
helping Artosorian kind of manage the room, so he did quite a lot of work, which, is nice to see the volunteers help out. So that was Friday. So after I was done with my games, I went out, had some sushi, maybe a whiskey or two, and then heading back home to probably play some more games with my buddy because he was actually doing X-Wing tournaments, so I was kind of like helping him get prepped. I took the dive on the e-scooter, and I think I was saying before, when I took that dive, like I did it in front of a couple of people, and like 6 people came rushing over and were like, "Are you okay? Are you sure you're okay? Are you positive you're okay?" And I was telling Wisdom here that I think if I was, 20 years younger, they would have laughed their asses off as opposed to seeing an old man take a dive on a scooter.
I mean, I'm
being
an
more
old man, and
concerned.
I'm laughing just hearing about it. So,
Yeah. And of course,
but seeing it live and in person, yeah, there probably would have been some concern. Like, can you break a hip?
yeah,
Does he
well,
have life alert? Has he fallen? Can he get up?
yeah, that was the first thing. Is like, if I can get up, I'm okay. And I got up. I'm
Yeah,
like, okay.
that's always the reaction for guys our age. Is, as long as we can get back up, we're cool.
Well, I think that's true for anybody. So, yeah, so that didn't really hamper me from having a good time. So, yes, I was in achy pain, and I had not realized that I had cracked a rib.
Please don't break my ribs.
Yeah,
My achy, breaky ribs.
so luckily I brought some ibuprofen. So I was like, oh, I just got banged up on the sidewalk. I've felt this bad fall, taking a nosedive on concrete before, so I figured it was nothing. And only realized it when I got home, and the 16-hour drive, kind of after the 16-hour drive, my body was like, yeah, no. I probably was also had some like adrenaline rushing through me being out there. So I think I handled the
I'm
pain
glad you're
a little
okay,
more.
pal.
Yeah. So yeah, those pictures that Rob posted of all of us, that was me with a cracked rib, and I think I had a big ass smile on my thing. I was limping a little, but next
I mean,
year.
it's just cool that you got to meet so many people. Um, all the crew at our Talsorian, Rob and Val. You got to meet one of our players,
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to talk to
Citizen
Mike
X.
though. Yeah, I talked to Citizen X. That was cool of him driving down. He wasn't thinking of coming anyways, or to Gen Con this year. And I was like, dude, you know, we talk on Discord all the time. Just show up.
Yeah, get down here. You can afford it.
Yeah, so so that was Friday. Saturday, I played Octung Cthulhu in the morning. First time I played the 2D20 system, and their mechanics of momentum and Threat. That was pretty fun. So Octone Cthulhu is basically Cthulhu during World War II, using
Nice.
produced by Mordifius, I think, and the 2D20
I can
system.
see how that would be a really good concept.
Yes,
The horrors of war and then you throw in the
Yeah.
absolute
killing Cthulhu
utter
monsters and
despair.
Nazis is always a good combination.
Yeah, it can go light or it can go seriously disturbing
Yes,
real quick.
yes, but that was fun. Caused kind of an incident for the group because we kind of unleashed a horrible monster, but luckily,
I mean, it's Cthulhu. That's what's gonna happen. That's the whole thing of it.
luckily our government agencies that deal with the paranormal were going to do a bombing run in that area just to make sure nothing else gets out of there. Yeah, and then I ran one game, I think. So this was Saturday. So did I run one game? I ran one game, which was again Edgerunners. So I ran Edgerunners all 4 days, and the first 2 days were the 2 supplements from the data pack. So after that, I kind of
Damn. So by the end of the show, you had that down pat.
Yeah, pretty much. So Saturday, I did a full walkthrough of the vendor hall, completely. Then what else did I do? Oh, I played. We tried to get to do. Was that new Star Wars game, card game?
Mm.
It's not Shatterpoint. It's a new Star Wars card game that my friend was really into because he's like I said, X-wing, Armada, all that stuff he loves. So he got hooked into into the card game and wanted to play it and show me the thing. He waited in line for half an hour and then was like, "Okay, you have tickets?" I'm like, "No." And like, "Well, you just wait here and see if we have room." And they did not have room.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
I'm not as
So
big into card games per se, but some of them are really interesting.
yeah, so me and my buddy, what did we do? I think we went to a restaurant. I'm trying to remember which one. Probably the District. Apparently that was the bar restaurant that we liked, which was a few blocks away from the convention center. So we hung out there, and then around 10 o'clock there was another party that we went to at some club, and had a good time there. Loud music. I think it was the who was hosting it. It was Cosplay's Deviants, I think, was the
Oh, nice.
group that was doing it, hosting it. So yeah, it was fun. A little expensive though, because of how many drinks we had. But yeah, so I had a great night, and then Sunday I did my one game. I stayed out a little too late Saturday night, so I missed the morning session, which I was going to do a BattleTech paint tutorial. Failed to do that, which is, yeah, it's fine. I was just going to learn like additional tips to refine my painting style, but then I ran Edgerunners. Then I hooked up with Rob and Val. We hooked up with Juicy Garland and Stink Palm. And so
Juicy Garland. What a great name.
yeah, so she's on the stream with Raven, who does the High Riders game, and Stink Palm is also part of that. And I think think Palm
Okay,
has
great.
been on other things with Rob, talking about Cyberpunk. So we had Rob, Val, all these guys. We had lunch together, did a quick photo shoot, which was fun. And then I hung out with Citizen X. So it was great to talk to him for an hour or so. Um, and then
Yeah, no,
yeah, and then I think
Joe is good people.
then I went home, packed to get ready for the drive that was happening the next day, and also to recuperate from some of my wounds and my late night shenanigans from Saturday night. So
I mean, at least you missed like the con funk. I know a couple other people on my Facebook feed. They came down with the con funk pretty severe.
yeah, so one guy kind of had the sniffles, but didn't it didn't turn into anything other than that for 2 or 3 days. One of the guys I went with kind of just doused themselves with vitamin C up to the con and continued to just douse himself with vitamin C throughout, and he never got
That's
affected.
probably a good idea.
I didn't get any affected with any con funk. However, one of my friends did when he finally got back this week, because he actually went to Pittsburgh the following week, and he has COVID. So we're not sure if he got COVID from GenCon or if he got COVID from Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that's rough.
I would say, yeah, there's a 50-50 chance both. And of course, he's like, why didn't you guys get it? And we're like, well, hey, Fauci might have been right about that vaccination. That it works sometimes.
Yeah. I still haven't had it, knock wood. And I'm fully vaccinated, so.
Oh, good for you. I've had it twice. The first time was pretty bad. I didn't go to the hospital, but it was like fever for the first couple of days, which you cannot sleep with a fever. And then
it's very difficult.
Yeah. Then the next 3 days was the feeling of swallowing razor blades, and it's amazing how much you swallow while you're trying to sleep, and how quickly you get woken up and when you feel like you're swallowing razor blades from a dream. So
The first shot got my Moderna, and like I didn't feel anything from it. There were no side effects at all. The second shot, man, it felt like somebody had dead armed me, just pounded on my shoulder for like half an hour, and it like persisted for like 3 days.
mm-hmm.
But after that, it was fine.
Yeah. So
The third one, I never felt anything from it either.
yeah, only one vaccination really affected me, but that's neither here nor there. So that was Gen Con. Again, wasn't able to talk to Mike. I talked to Dave Ackerman, real nice guy, real approachable. He kind of was.
We hope to have him on the show very soon.
Yeah, he was kind of helping out running the game room with Jay Gray and Dice. Real approachable guy. I wasn't able to talk to Mike. I did talk to Lisa a little bit.
We love Lisa.
So, talked to her, talked about possibly getting on her show, and she was like, what am I going to talk about? I'm not part of, I didn't create the game. I was like, yeah, but you created the bozos, you created Alt, you created Spider, and she was like, kind of like, I don't know,
On
kind
top
of bashful
of that,
yeah, that was me.
For like most of the 90s, like if you tried to correspond with Artal Sorian, like she was the one you talked to.
Yeah,
Definitely the one I talked to.
She still is. So if you try to contact them, it's probably going to be them.
Yeah. So yeah, she's a very important part of the company. And
Yeah,
I
so
can sympathize with how she feels.
so let's see. So the card that was given out during the Artalsorian, that's it. Project Moon or Blue Moon. So if you go
Any,
to
this is the first time
Artalsorian's,
hearing of
yeah.
this.
So if you're on Artalsorian's Discord under their announcements, Jay Gray posted the card that we got back on the 4th, and it has the QR code. So there's nothing done yet other than kind of hint at what it looks like. So it kind of looks like an Asian influenced type of game. So supposedly at the end of the
Well,
month, they're going to have more information about it.
I mean, it's just exciting to see Artal Sorian pushing a new property.
Yep.
Again, any growth in the company is a good thing.
Yep.
I remember when they put out the Bubblegum Crisis source books. I think was that the last, or was it Dragon Ball Z? Which one was the last one they put out?
I think it was Dragon Ball Z.
I don't know, but I think so too. But that was like the last time they had pushed a new product until The Witcher and Cyberpunk Red, of course.
Right. Oh, there was also talk about Mekton as well. So Mike kind of was, well, that kind of been put on hold because of the whole Kickstarter issues that he had. And he was kind of roped into the whole Cyberpunk, right, with CDPR. So his attention kind of diverted, I'm afraid, from Mekton. Whether or not he's going to get back to it, he's still, I think, on the fence. I think he wants to, but at this time, I don't think he can. There's just so much one man can do,
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of sad. It's always been his baby. Like even more so than Cyberpunk, he's like Mekton is his personal favorite. Like it paved the way for everything else. Well, I mean, Teenagers from Outer Space, but yeah.
Speaking of which, they actually did or Jay Gray ran a Teenagers from Outer Space event.
Nice. Nice. Good to see the old game getting some love.
One of my buddies actually was in that game, and he enjoyed it. Speaking of which, I just want to say here that, I appreciate Artalsorian allowing me to run games for them at the con. They treated me well. I was given, Ace shirts, dice. They also were able to pay for my badge, which was a nice perk. Granted,
very cool.
Now, granted, I ran for 6 events, so 12 hours for them, and I would do it again. I had a blast. I thought it was a great experience, and especially not have to coming up with an event or coming up with a scenario and being say, hey, run this, was a lot of pressure alleviated from my shoulders. So that was fun. Yeah, and Rob and Val, they were at the Sirenscapes booth that was in the hall that connected the convention hall to the stadium, right? So they were getting a lot of people involved with Cyberpunk. So hopefully that was we have more disciples of the Cyberpunk floating about and just waiting to make this the new lead tabletop game. I hope.
Well, I mean, it sounds like you had a great time, and the whole event was a smashing success. And of course, we already knew that all those guys are just great people in general. So
Yes.
I am so jealous of your experience. I wish I could. Yeah, absolutely. Maybe
Well,
next year. Maybe
maybe
next
next
year.
year. Um, just keep in mind that if you do run events, and this was something I didn't quite understand, you can set a certain. Well, granted, you have to find people who actually pay the value of the event, but there was events out there that were $10, $20 a ticket for a 4 hour
Damn.
slot. Yeah, and from my understanding, Gen Con doesn't take a percentage. They take a certain value off, which also goes towards paying for your ticket, right?
Okay.
So the badge. So you can, if you run events, you can actually not only get your badge for free, but you can also make at least some money to help towards a hotel. Now, of course, that implies that you find people who are willing to pay the price, and there wasn't a lot of Cyberpunk 2020 events there, and there was no IU events, so you might have
Well,
a
of course not. I mean, why would there be an IU event? It's a fan product. I can't imagine that they're yeah.
so you could be
But maybe if I show up.
maybe if you show up you could run it. So also one of my friends was in a 2020 event. This guy, he was so, I don't know how he got so lucky. So if you go to Gen Con, some of the things you got to know about is when you get your badge, you are then all set to ready to be able to register, right, to get events. So there's two kind of major dates before the con that you got to be aware of besides just buying the badge. One is the hotel registration, and the other is the event registration. So hotel registration, you are basically told at this time, log on to this site and reserve a hotel room, right? And say whether you're doing a single or or trying to bunk with one of your friends that's going,
Okay.
right? So I was given a certain time. My friend was given the first time slot, right? So he signs on, amazingly enough, within milliseconds of it opening, and he gets a hotel immediately. I have a time
Nice.
slot an hour and a half later. I sign on,
Oh.
all the hotels already sold out. I'm like, WTF?
Yeah.
When can I, and of course, I went with four guys, and the three other guys are like, yeah, we weren't able to get hotels either. So I'm like, all right, so you got a hotel. And that's when we kind of like decided, all right, let's take a look and try to get an Airbnb. And to me, I will always go with an Airbnb, even if it's a good distance away. The Airbnb we found was just awesome. It was a 3-story house and 3 bedrooms, pull-out couch. The guy who had the master bedroom paid the most. The guy who slept on the couch paid the least, and I was paying
Yeah.
the last. But I was up on the 3rd floor, which was kind of a big ordeal because they were all cathedral ceilings. So even though it was a 3rd floor, it felt like
Yeah.
the 5th. But it was nice because I was the only one on that floor, and it was nice and quiet. But yeah, so Airbnb, a great thing to do. And so we got the Airbnb, and then the event registration day came. Again, you're given, hey, event's going to be open at this time to register. So all of us are sitting there, and like all of us hit the button to get into the register, and the registration for events is queued. Same guy, he get queued at 132 is his queue number. I got 5,300 and something. My other buddy got 15,000 something or other. And so we register for the events that we wanted. And of course you're crossing your fingers hoping you're getting it. The guy who had the line 132 got all his events except one. All the events I tried to register for in the morning, none of them available. Even one that was like, a $15 table. I was like, okay, I'm going to look at the more expensive ones because, no offense, but some gamers don't have deep pockets. So I figured, the $15 ones are probably going to have more of a chance, right? To be open. Nope. So basically I had to, find the scraps. But luckily, they introduced more events throughout the time, and you were able, as long as you were monitoring it, you could probably get into a possible game or game system that you actually wanted. So, but still, my buddy was just like, yep, I got everything I wanted. And of course, one of them was an 8-hour Cyberpunk 2020 game that he was in.
Nice.
So.
Lucky bastard.
Yeah, and an 8-hour event at a con is, I thought, was like, that's got to be a typo, because usually they're 4-hour slots. But yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty big investment for
a
con weekend, I would imagine.
And 4 hours in, they had a break. They had a lunch break or a dinner break, and then they came back in and did it. And that DM was actually in one of my red games. I was like, you're crazy for doing an 8-hour thing. And he's like, yeah, but I do it all the time with, my home group, right? I spend a Saturday or a Sunday playing straight for 8 hours. So that's the kind of thing I wanted to bring to the con.
I was going to say, honestly, that would probably appeal to me more than any of the other stuff.
Yeah.
So you went to Gen Con, and I have to ask, did you do the live dungeon?
No. A friend tried to talk me into it, but I was just like, I didn't want to overburden myself going there, so I kept my nights. So I was done with my days usually by 6, unless there was one of those special events. Just because I prefer to have a bit of a nightlife, right? So really, and the way our Tussorian scheduled me, either it was on at 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock or noon with a break in between, a 2-hour break in between the two events. So my schedule was, during the afternoons, was kind of blocked off for just doing our Tussorian or going to the vendor hall. And then the mornings were kind of my events. And I don't know, I just, I've done the LARPing thing. I've done the SCA thing. I guess it's not as much as, I'm not much as interested in it as I used to be.
Sure, I can get that.
And I've done an escape room, so it probably would have been fun. But yeah, I just didn't get to it.
All right, rolling. Well, like I said, it sounds like you had a great time anyway. Yeah, like I said, there's definitely some jelly vibes coming from my direction. I gotta say that.
Yeah.
Heck, just meeting all the people, that would have been my primary goal anyway.
Yeah.
That and the swag. I love swag.
Yeah,
any kind of promo, anything, that's just my jam.
Yeah, the problem with swag is you gotta carry it back. I'm very light travel.
I mean, I guess that's kind of the groovy part of it for me, but
Yeah.
that's yeah.
Well, if you're a card collector, you could make off with $300,000 worth of Magic cards. That was
Yeah,
the
I mean,
big
I
event.
feel bad for whoever was in charge of that stuff. But
Oh, yeah. So that was kind of the big scandal. Hey, Dice. Yeah. So Dice RTT. Or sorry, Dice ttrpg. My dyslexia is coming through. He was manning the room and kind of running everybody and helping out with Artos. Sorry, and Dice, you did an awesome job,
yeah,
man. Keeping everything working and moving. So,
Will has spoken highly of you.
yeah, everyone I met was awesome to talk with. And of course, me being an East Coaster is, a bit of an introvert. So, yeah, overall it was definitely a fun time. What was I about to say? There was something else.
Mm.
Shoot, we're talking about swag. Oh, so the past couple of Gen Cons, Monster Fight Club has this container ship that they kind of do a display on with all the various containers. So it's this big, massive ship that they have like miniatures running over, etc. So supposedly they might be
Nice.
doing a Kickstarter for purchasing that thing
Ooh.
in the future. So that's interesting to think to have that humongous ship to play on.
I mean, I very much dug their like modular city block building sets.
Yeah,
Those were really cool.
yeah. Now that I took it out of the main box and started breaking them up with all the little connectors and stuff. It's pretty nice quality. I don't know if you want to get into talking about
Yeah,
Combat Zone.
absolutely. Let's get into talking about some combat zone.
Yeah, so the Kickstarter, for those who don't know, the Kickstarter just landed. The Kickstarter was about 2 years ago. They started it, so it was kind of at the height of COVID, maybe a little bit before COVID. I think it was before COVID.
I think it
Say
was just before COVID.
Yeah,
I know because I had enough disposable income at the time that I could afford it. It was my last like large RPG purchase.
right. So that landed while I was at Gen Con. So my box came in, and I didn't. And the only reason why I saw it was because I was at Gen Con and they had it all on display. So they had demo games running. Their booth was fully stacked, and of course, I'm looking at it like, ooh, I don't remember what I ordered. So
Yeah.
I don't want to buy duplicates that I don't have to. So kind of was refraining from picking up more. And of course, come to find out, yes, I didn't buy the Bozo pack. I didn't buy Generation Red. I didn't buy the Edgerunner one because I figured the Edgerunner was from their previous sets, which apparently wasn't. But yeah, the quality is definitely there. The graphics are great.
Yeah, I mean, for plastic minis, these things are great. They're gorgeous, highly detailed. I picked up Danger Gals and Arasaka, and um, there's one other one somewhere. I think it's in the other room. Maelstrom, I think. Yeah.
Oh, you picked up an additional Maelstrom?
Yeah, because they're just fucking cool.
Yeah.
And I'd already bought as many of the individual like miniature packs that I could beforehand.
Yeah. So
Uh,
my purchase was I got the main book, I got the Zoners, Trauma Team, Arasaka, Lawmen, and Danger Gal.
nice.
Just because I was thinking more of gearing this towards, the tabletop play, and
Yeah, exactly.
thinking about, these are the miniatures I want, because I really don't use bozos very often, though I should.
No, and I've already got some from the original uh, mini sets
Yeah.
back in the day from like Grenadier and
And,
Alparka.
and I also purchased the scatter terrain. With I don't remember if the crates and barrels scatter terrain was an addition or not, or if it was a stretch goal. But I picked up the vendor machines and things like that.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, and of course, the stretch
I like
goals.
the
There's tons of it.
there's tons of stretch goal stuff, and I like I like the quality of the little Arasaka like shipping crate thing. Like that was cool.
Yes. I actually was, now that I saw it and actually held it, I'm like, oh man, I should have got the 5 pack that they had.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Like I just got one of these, and I'm really kind of kicking myself about that now. Like, I should have gotten more.
Yeah, so
But I was already pushing my limit with what I did get, and I didn't want to end up. I didn't want to end up getting duplicates of any of the minis
yep,
because I noticed that a lot of the minis looked very similar to stuff they had already released.
right. And when I first did the Kickstarter and I didn't quite understand the rules, I mean, they showed me what they had, and of course, my wargaming experience was basically you just have a sheet of stats. You don't have any counters or cards or any of that. You just roll dice. You make calculations to see if you kill your opponents or kill the enemy figures. So it was very straightforward for me. So the concept of having a card, having equipment on that card, having those tokens, the
Yeah,
green, red, and yellow, I wasn't sure if I was gonna like to play that way. But
yeah. There's
then,
a lot of fiddly bits going on.
yeah, and then my friend got into X-wing recently, like within the past 2 years, and got me playing it, and that has a lot of tokens, a lot of cards that you lay out as you're playing. So playing that way kind of got me used to it, and then going with the demo and seeing how much more simplified it is compared to like X-wing. I really enjoyed it, and the guy who ran the demo said, "Yeah, I used to be a big X-wing player, but when I started playing this, I found this to be a lot more streamlined, a lot easier to play through, and a lot a lot of fun, just because of the various combos you can do with the cards." So those who have yet to see or hear about Combat Zone, so Combat Zone uses the React system, which is basically it's a color coded system. So you have red, green, or red, yellow, green. That those colors correspond to the length, right? The range, right? So there's a red range, a yellow range, and a green range. It also corresponds to what actions you can do. So, for example, a card such as like the Maelstrom Warlord has 2 green actions and a yellow action. So you have those 3 actions that you can do during your turn, right? So each action you can do, and it alternates between the 2 players. And those colors correspond to a dice, right? So green is a 12-sider, yellow is a 8-sider, and red is a 6-sider. So what you're trying to do is you're basically rolling off against your opponent. If you're not rolling against your opponent, you're rolling against what's called the obstacle die, which is a D10. So each character might have a bonus to one of those dice rolls. But for example, if I shoot you, I can say I want to use a yellow action to shoot you, which doesn't necessarily mean I can only go out to yellow range. It just means I use a D8 to try to see success. And the opponent, of course, can choose what action they want to use, whether it's a green or a yellow, to kind of thwart you, right? So if they use a green, there's a good chance that they might get above what you roll. However, if you do lose and you take a wound, your action color then becomes red. And that's kind of how it tracks hit points. So the system is like what anywhere from like 4 to 8 miniatures you play per side.
So I haven't had a chance to play it yet. I've just looked through it with mouth watering. But I haven't been able to schedule a group to play it yet. How long does each game last?
So the demo I did took about an hour, right? So those were slotted for an hour. Didn't even last. So it was four miniatures per side, right? And of course it was slow because we were learning it. So they're quick. I mean, the game's quick, right? So the game also has a point system of cost, right? So you can build your units. They use, of course, Cyberpunk EBs, right? Eddies, as their system to figure out how big of a unit you can build, right? So they say you can use 100 EB or 150 EB or even go up to 200 EB. So 100 EB, you're probably looking at an hour, maybe less, maybe a little more of time to play. So it's kind of quick. I think the major thing is just the setup, because you're pulling out all the cards and you're getting all the tokens out for those actions, and basically purchasing the equipment for each card that you might want.
Yeah.
So I think setup can probably take 15 to 20 minutes, and then I think as you get better at running the game, it'll be very quick. So you would want to bump up your force cost a little more.
See, that's what I like. I like games that run at a faster pace. I've got friends who play board games and stuff all the time, but they like these long, like drawn out, like take hours upon hours, like basically half RPG board games that play more like Risk than anything else, and I cannot play Risk. I just fall asleep during that. Yeah. So I'm very excited to hear that this is a quicker game.
It is a quicker game, and it's not like some of the other war games that I've played in which it's like, okay, either everyone moves on your side, then everyone moves on my side, and then we resolve their actions, right? Or I move a whole big unit, then you move one of your units, then you move one of your units. It's basically we go back and forth, doing actions or not doing actions, right? And getting into position. So even though your character card might have 3 to 4 actions that you can do, you don't have to do all those actions in that time. The reason why you would save up some of those action is because, like I was saying, it's called the react system, which means if a figure shoots you,
if something happens,
if a figure shoots you,
react to it.
And you get wounded, you then have the ability to use one of your actions, right? So you can shoot back, you can move out of the way, and you can do other things. There's also, like with the game I was in with Maelstrom, it, the combinations that you had was I had one character who could then activate another character as an action, right? So during my turn
Nice.
of that character, I activated another guy who just went to town on one of the tiger claws and destroyed them. And then it went back
That sounds
to,
like a pretty good ability.
yeah, and then it went back to that character's actions to fill out her other two actions. So it was a nice combo that I could use all her actions, and then with her last action, I activate another unit to kind of finish the guy off. And of course, when he finished the guy off because he beat somebody or caused a wound, everyone who was within visual sight of this one guy, all of them would get their actions reset, or at least get one of their actions reset. So basically, he was kind of this thing in which I didn't have to do a full reset. So once you spend all your actions, you have to do what's called I think a refresh or a reset, and basically it flips all your little tokens over so you can do all your actions again. So after you've spent all your actions, then you have to do a reset. And usually it's kind of like means you don't do anything for a turn. Whereas your opponent can continue to do various things. So that little combo was just heinous for this player because I just destroyed his characters, because every time I did a wound, which of course, I had to do at least 2 to 3 wounds, this guy would be refreshing all my other units. So it was definitely a cool little way of just keep on going, and Maelstrom just wiped the table clean. This
Nice, good job.
Yeah, and this game also has campaign rules, which
Yeah, I saw those. I
pretty
very much
good.
like the idea of that, where you can keep the game going consecutively and kind of build your own story. Plus, you can just use it as cyberpunk miniatures, terrain, and all that for
Yeah.
your tabletop game.
Uh,
I mean, to be honest, that's why I bought it. Like the skirmish game itself is just kind of a nice added bonus.
yeah, I mean, I definitely play it as a wargamer.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's and like I said, the quality. I mean, even the game board they provide. I know on the
Oh, it's
box.
gorgeous, isn't
Yeah,
it?
the description of the box is that it's a paper map. It is not a paper map. It is a hard cardboard, condensed cardboard. It's almost like, I don't know,
Like a
wood.
like a board game piece, board
Yeah,
game
but even thicker and
board.
tougher.
Yeah, it's every bit like the quality you expect from like Steven Jackson games or something.
Yeah, and the figures are good.
It's
I don't know if you had this
the
issue,
art
but
is gorgeous.
2 of the miniatures I got out of the base box set, which was one of the Maelstroms and one of the Tiger Claws. The Tiger Claw was missing a shin, which was a mold defect, and the Maelstrom guy was missing his forearm. I don't know if you saw
Let me
any
take a look.
mold issues with your figures, but if you do, if you email info at monster or yeah, pardon me, monsterfightclub.com, they'll actually assist with you. I actually have
Oh,
an
excellent.
email with it, so if you have any issues, they're very responsive, and overall, I think it was one of the better Kickstarters I've had. And that includes Rob's Kickstarter with the cool dice and the dice box and his miniatures, which were
That dice box is
pretty good too.
badass. The dice tower was really cool too. Uh, Well, on that note, speaking of the art of Combat Zone, um, Danger Gal also came out, and it looks like a lot of the art is based directly off of the miniatures from Combat Zone
Well,
and from other monster product miniatures.
yeah, again, I don't know if the art is based off of the miniatures or if the miniatures are based off of the art. I think some of them, the miniatures were based off of the art, right? Because some of these images are from the base book, right? Like the Netrunner,
Sure, yeah. Um,
Grease.
they're okay. I don't know how much collaboration in the early days went on, and I don't know who came first. But like the concept art, I did see some of the concept art for the minis, and that basically just carried straight over.
Yeah.
Um, and then there are others. I mean, some of these are just kind of like rescans of like 2020 images, like the Bozo. Like that's straight up kind of Chris Hockabout's Bozo right there.
Yep.
So it's really nice to see this level of cooperation, having minis that feel like they came straight out of the books, or having books that feel like they were based off. It's a nice bit of interplay and interconnectivity.
Yep.
I liked Danger Gals. I just got a copy of it, thanks to my friend Jay Robinson. He gifted me a copy. Thank you, Jay. And I've had a chance to look through it, and it's a really pretty book. It's 90% of it is just a book of NPCs and various factions that they belong to, and that's really cool. You've got things like edgerunners, you've got Trauma Team, the Danger Gals themselves. You got a modern write-up of the Bozos and Maelstrom for the 2045 Cyberpunk Red world, like kind of the interim between 2020 and 2077. You can kind of see how they got to that point. Yeah,
The other thing I liked about the Danger Girl was that even though they in the NB so right so each so you have the section describing the gang or unit or corporation, and then you have the list of the various NPCs, and with those NPCs comes, of course, new gear. So
yeah,
not only do they list the new gear underneath the character, but they also put the new gear in another section, which is nice because they consolidate that gear, so you don't have to go trying to figure out, okay, which NPC had that one piece of gear that I'd like to have, this other person have. So you don't have to go hunting through the book to try to figure out where in the book that one piece of gear you wanted to use is. I have yet to get to the NPC creation guidelines yet, but it looks pretty kind of useful. Oh, yes.
I mean, it gives you everything you need to create a suitable NPC just for whatever purpose you might need it for in the world of Red. I liked it.
And they also have a adventure in here called The Incident. I can tell you that The Incident, just reading through it, was converted into the jacket for the Edgerunner game that I ran. So
Nice.
So if you've read The Incident, that's kind of the game, except with 2077 tech. And the premise was, the premise of the game was Falco hired people to go find some items for him. Let's just put that there. I'll leave that as the teaser of what the jacket was.
The first thing I noticed about the gear section, the new gear section, is a lot of the old 2020 stuff
Yep.
gets brought back, like the Magnum Opus Hellbringer and the Militech Crusher, Kundachi Dragon, IMI Chain Knife. Like all this really cool shit that I fucking used all the time in 2020 is now available in red. That's cool. I like that. Each one of them has like it's really nothing more than a price and a brief write up for each of them.
Yep.
Because the way red works with in regard to weapon, that's all you need. But yeah, it was nice seeing those old guns get some love again.
Definitely.
And not just guns. I mean, there's cybernetics as well, and all sorts of stuff that I think maybe this should have been in black, in chrome black, but I'm very happy to see it here.
Right. The other thing that was happening during the Q&A, there was always still a little bit of the talk of, a Nomad Chromebook is still talked about, whether when Mike finally gets, pen to paper. I think he's still having the ideas roll around in his head. He was also mentioned about the High Rider supplement, but again, a lot of that also needs to be worked through with CDPR, and that was another interesting understanding of what's going on with CDPR and Artalsorian and how they have to continually coordinate between the two, because if you understand, that CDPR kind of owns Cyberpunk, at least the computer game going
red.
forward. Yeah, anything beyond red, and they control, that going forward. And Mike explained that there's his child is now in school and is growing up, and now that the school is CDPR, and now they're kind of the caretakers of it. But he plays kind of a PTA role, right, in which the teachers and him and the parent work together to guide the child to maturity. And he also said that CDPR has more lawyers and more money to kind of throw towards anybody who tries to start or to protect the IP, because one thing that Mike can't do is protect the IP in other countries, just because Artalsorian is very small. I don't think they have a team of lawyers, especially international lawyers, to go out and sync that, because if you understand copyright laws, if you're not protecting your IP and putting claims out on it, you can lose it. I don't know what the time period is, but you can lose it pretty quick if you do not protect it. So there is that situation, and I think he saw CD Projekt Red as a good fit to try to protect it, especially now that it's become so popular.
Yeah.
So with that said, again, they also have to coordinate, right? So if Artalsorian introduces some big thing that's kind of far-reaching into the lore, it's going to impact the Cyberpunk 2020 or 2077 game, right? And vice versa. So if CDPR puts in some background lore on something, it's going to impact Artalsorian's game. So.
It's definitely a very, very tricky web of coordination and communication that they're going to have to tread.
Exactly. So
my biggest concern is that I hope they don't get too overzealous with with the copyright protection. There aren't many Cyberpunk sites still out there, but those of us that are still out there, I'd hate for them to go in like the Palladium route where they're just shutting down everybody.
Yeah,
I don't think that'll happen.
I don't think that will happen either. I think as long as you and right, so Altarsorian has already said if you're doing it anything towards the tabletop game, here are our rules, right? You have to give it away for free. You can't just quote from the book directly. You can't
Yeah.
Produce anything and call it official because it'll never be official unless Altarsorian puts their name on it. So that statement still applies, right? So unless CDPR, comes around and says, nope, we're cracking down even harder.
Yeah, like I said, it's not
that's
necessarily
a
a concern, but it's always in the realm of possibility. Like no one. I mean, I don't know if you remember before like 2000, but the amount of like I said, like Palladium sites out there, especially ones revolving around Robotech.
Yeah.
There were enormous sites out there.
Well, Robotech is I don't think it was just Palladium. I think it was also Harmony Gold.
Well, I mean, they also hit all the Rift sites.
Yeah.
And like everything. Like they just did a scorched earth on the internet for anybody posting any of their materials anywhere. It's one of many reasons I don't have any fondness for, the Palladium upper echelon.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, there's it's in the background, but I don't think that's going to happen. For one, I think Mike is well aware of how much the internet fan presence has really kept the game alive when in the lean years when there was nothing being published.
Yep.
So I don't think that's ever really going to be an issue. I just, don't know how CD Projekt Red is going to react going forward. That's really the only issue.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only unknown variable per se.
Yep. Oh, and I think we touched on it before. Was the big news item was some doofuses tried to make off with $300,000 worth of Magic cards. On Wednesday, they rolled into the vendor hall with a skiff and loaded it up with cards and left. However, apparently they weren't smart enough to think, oh, there's a bunch of security cameras, and one of them
everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere. One of them, the numbskull that they wore, was wearing a shirt with their company's name on it. So.
Yeah, we're talking about some genius level criminals here.
Yeah, I thought that was hilarious.
That's on the same level as the dudes who robbed my storage unit and then recorded themselves on their own like front door camera taking all my stolen shit into their house.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's there's some smart people out there. Don't do meth, kids. It just don't do it.
Yeah, don't do meth. Meth is bad, okay?
Meth is bad. I'm not gonna judge you for most of the stuff out there that you might do, but meth makes you. Well, did we want to go deeper into Danger Gal, or
it's up to you? I mean, high level. I don't know. So again with I don't know. I mean, I haven't read it completely. I've gotten probably halfway through it. Um, I think if we want to do a deeper dive, we should set it up
Yeah,
for a future, maybe a future
yeah, that makes
thing.
sense to me. We can cover it in detail later. I will just say that I recommend it as someone who loves lore, as someone who loves NPCs. Yeah, pick it up.
Most definitely.
This one was headlined by friend of the show Jay Gray, and it's nice to see. Yeah, yeah. Pick this book up. Give him some love.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah. So I don't know what else we can talk about other than because I know we're a little short, 20 minutes from our normal, but
Yeah, they can't all be 2 hours. We covered what we needed to say today. I think. Just catching up with each other and getting the audience caught up with what's been going on. Um, there was a lot to talk about as far as announcements from Artel Sorian, and I think we covered that pretty well.
yep.
Well, in that case, I would again like to thank Jay Robinson for gifting me Danger Gal dossier. Um, again, pick it up if you get a chance.
Most definitely.
Uh,
And again,
like to thank.
I'd
Go
like to
ahead.
I'd like to thank Altar Surian, Mike, Lisa, Cody, Jay Gray, Dave Ackerman, Dice, for all they did during the con. Not only for me, but for all the other referees, as well as all the people they interact with. And just lastly, I want to say that I forgot to mention this, but my table was always booked full, which was nice. Even though there
Well,
was
that's
a
because
couple
you
no,
rock, pal.
yeah, even though there was some no shows, there was always people waiting to come in and play. So, which is always great for a GM to have a full table.
Uh, So I meant to ask, did any of the other old school Artel Soaring guys there, Benjamin Wright or Will Moss, did
No,
they show
not
up?
not that I saw. Uh,
Okay.
so the other thing is, and I know we've talked to some of the old school guys before. Uh, Apparently, William Moss he doesn't do a lot of talking engagements because when I was talking to Lisa about like trying to get her onto our show, which is still a possibility, people just need to work on it. And I started listening. Oh yeah, we had or Benjamin, we had Spike, and we had William Moss. And she was like, "You got William Moss on your show?" And I'm like, "Yeah. Why is that weird?" And I forgot who else mentioned that to us. That was like, "Wow, you got Will to talk on your show?" Like, yeah. I mean, is he a recluse? So apparently, he's a big win for us.
Yeah, yeah, go us. We got the goods, people. Um, Speaking of goods, we'd like to thank Rob Mulligan and Cybernation Uncensored.
Yes.
Rob and Val were here in the chat with us today, or not in the chat, but they were in the audience. It was nice to see them.
Yes, and it was
Um,
great seeing them in person.
I'm so jealous. I wanted to meet them very badly. Uh, I'm so jealous you got to meet so many of these really just amazingly awesome people. Um, Again, maybe next year. Yeah, I think that takes care of just about everything, pal.
All right. All right. So I'm Cybersmily. You can find me on cybersmily.net. That's Cybersmily with SMILY without the E. Uh,
EKCs.
Also, I have my own uh, Discord. I'm on various Discords, Cyberpunk Uncensored, R. Talsorian, a lot of the I forget what they're called, but they're just what are those servers called with all the adventures going on?
I don't know.
West March. A lot of the West March
Oh,
servers for Cyberpunk Red. So on those, I occasionally go to Reddit and check out the Cyberpunk 2020 thread as well as Red. So you might be able to find me there if you do a shout out. Yeah, I'm not on any other social media, I'm afraid.
I am Wisdom 000, otherwise known as Derek Vernier. You can find me at Datafortress2020.com. I hang out on the same Discord things he does, although I interact there much less frequently. I'm on Reddit at the Cyberpunk 2020 and various other Cyberpunk geared Reddit threads, the channels, pages, whatever the hell they call them. I'm on Facebook at both the Datafortress 2020 Facebook group and the Cyberpunk 2020 group, as well as the Cybernation Uncensored group. There's no Instagram, there's no Twitter. I don't mess with any of that. But yeah, you can reach us through any of those sources. We always love to hear from you. Comments, complaints, criticisms, suggestions. Whatever you got, send it our way and we will try to address it. In the meantime, I guess I will. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
3 weeks.
Here. 3 weeks?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's another one of those months.
It's one of those weird months.
Yeah. 3 weeks from now, here on Cybernation Uncensored Twitch channel. You can also catch all our old episodes on YouTube at the Cybernation Uncensored channel there. We've got our own Tales from the Forlorn Dopes playlist, where you can catch all of our interviews and all that good stuff.
Yep. Sounds good. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us. And enjoy your evening. Till next time.
Yeah. Good night, everybody.
Cybernation Uncensored.